All right, let's just dive right into this explainer and take a close look at Claude Code. Now, this isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill chatbot. We are talking about an incredibly powerful terminal agent. We're officially moving way past the days of just asking an AI a question in a browser tab and copying the answer. We're entering an era where AI actually lives right inside your dev environment. But, and this is a massive but, with that incredible power comes a very real need for discipline. If you don't frame this tool correctly from the get-go, it can easily wander off in totally the wrong direction and create some major trust issues in your codebase.
You see, a terminal agent basically operates across three distinct pillars. It writes code, it edits files, and it runs commands. And I really want to emphasize this point. This level of autonomy means it can edit your files directly. It's not just sitting there suggesting code for you to copy and paste. It's physically executing the changes itself. And that right there, that is exactly why it requires deliberate framing to operate safely. You simply can't unleash it without a solid framework, or you're going to quickly find yourself untangling a massive web of unintended changes. So, here's our agenda for today's explainer. First, the terminal agent's power. Second, project memory with Claude.md. Third, task scoping discipline. Fourth, the plan and approval loop. And finally, a developer's cautionary tale.
Let's jump into Section 1, Project Memory with Claude.md. Be honest. How many times have you copy-pasted your project context into a prompt today? Seriously, think about that for a second.
Because every time you start a new session, it kind of feels like you're starting from absolute zero, right? You're constantly reminding the AI about your architecture and your libraries. Now look at the stark contrast here. The weak approach, which, let's face it, most people default to, is explaining the project from scratch every single time. It's just a massive waste of time and it creates highly inconsistent context. But the strong approach? The strong approach automates memory completely just by adding a Claude.md file directly to the root of your project.
So what exactly goes into this magical little file? Well, by putting in instructions like, use this specific package manager, or follow this exact folder structure, or run tests with this specific command, the agent automatically reads it every single session. You literally write it once, and Claude Code digests it every time it boots up. This entirely saves you from all that endless repetition and ensures that every single interaction starts with the exact same baseline understanding of your project's unique DNA. Pretty cool, right?
All right, moving on to Section 2, the task scoping discipline.
Because, having a good memory is really only half the battle. You also have to know how to give it proper instructions. If you're using the weak approach of open-ended requests, like just saying, hey, add this feature, Claude decides the scope entirely on its own. It's going to use its own interpretation, and honestly, it will very likely touch unexpected files. But a strong prompt dictates exactly what to touch, and crucially, what to leave alone. You need to say things like, add this function to this specific file, do not touch any other files, and add it without breaking the existing tests. Setting that strict boundary prevents the task from just wandering off into unexpected directions.
Okay. Section 3, the plan and approval loop.
Since this agent is running commands and making edits directly, we absolutely need a final guardrail before execution. We can't just let it run wild, especially on big code bases. Letting the agent execute directly is the weak approach, meaning unwanted changes can easily sneak in totally unnoticed. You literally might not realize a critical config file was altered until your build suddenly fails in production. The strong approach demands that the agent show you a plan first. You essentially tell Claude Code, plan out exactly how you'll make this change, show it to me, and only execute it if I approve. That ensures you get a strict review of any risky decisions before a single line of code is actually modified.
Which brings us to Section 4, a developer's cautionary tale. To really understand why these three disciplines are so absolutely mandatory, let's look at an anonymous developer's real-world disaster.
So this developer was basically using the weak approach across the board. They were constantly re-explaining the project every session and giving completely open-ended tasks. And, predictably, it resulted in a total disaster. A seemingly small, totally harmless feature request caused Claude Code to just wander off track. It ended up making a completely unexpected change in an entirely unrelated file, which snuck an accidental dependency straight into the codebase.
But this actually brilliantly illustrates the solution. The developer realized their mistake and entirely changed their framework. Once they added that CLAUDE.md file to the root directory, started defining precise, strict scopes for their tasks, and mandated a pre-approval plan step for risky changes, the chaos stopped. The unexpected changes disappeared completely. The tool literally went from being a chaotic liability to a highly reliable partner.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, the 3 shared steps.
Let's synthesize everything we've talked about into a common discipline that you can apply immediately in your own workflow.
Think of these as your 3 mandatory layers of security and efficiency. Step 1, persist project memory with Claude.md. Step 2, define your tasks with crystal clear, strict scope. And step 3, always run risky changes through a pre-approval plan. While weak usage just leaves everything to immediate context and direct execution, powerful usage deliberately designs these 3 layers to keep the agent securely on track. They work together so you get all the awesome velocity of an AI agent without any of those reckless side effects. Because Claude Code really is a true terminal agent with the power to edit and execute, you have to ask yourself this tough question about autonomy every single time you open your terminal. Are you managing your AI or is it managing your code base? If you aren't actively setting the boundaries, the AI is making decisions for you. Implementing the frameworks we covered today ensures that you remain firmly in the driver's seat.
So, I'll leave you with this somewhat provocative thought. If an AI is autonomously executing commands and making edits, who is actually architecting your software? Definitely something to chew on. If you found this useful, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Next episode, Understanding Claude's Limitations.